Please give me a story that begins in a quiet evening with the golden sun slowly disappearing behind the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, and in that moment she sits on her balcony feeling the gentle breeze that carries memories of laughter and whispers of old conversations. She opens her phone and sees the last DM from someone who once made her heart race, and she remembers the days they spent walking under the rain with their hands barely touching, yet feeling a connection so deep that words were never enough. She smiles at the thought of those silly arguments and late night talks that ended with sleepy goodbyes. She remembers the coffee shop where they met for the first time, the smell of fresh pastries and the sound of rain tapping against the windows. She remembers how she had tripped on the wet floor and he had caught her just in time, his laugh echoing in her ears. Even now she types back a simple word, hoping to see a reply that never comes. She wonders if he is somewhere under the same sky feeling the same longing, or if he has moved on with his life in ways she cannot imagine. She scrolls through the gallery of photos they took together, the vacations, the small adventures in the city, the quiet mornings on park benches, the sunrises they watched together and the sunsets they missed because they were too busy holding each other or too busy being afraid to say what their hearts screamed. She feels a pang in her chest, remembering the unspoken words, the confessions that never came, the moments she wanted to scream I love you but never did because fear kept her quiet. She looks at the stars beginning to twinkle in the evening sky and wonders if he ever looked at the same stars, if he thought of her as she thinks of him. She remembers the letters she never sent, the small notes tucked in books and drawers, the promises she made to herself to be brave and the ones she broke in the name of safety. She remembers the music they shared, the songs that played on repeat in her headphones, the lyrics that seemed to narrate their story, the melodies that made her heart ache with nostalgia. She feels the breeze again and imagines it carrying her thoughts to him as if the wind could bridge the distance, the time, the silence. She takes a deep breath and walks to the window, looking at the city lights, the cars moving like fireflies, the streets alive with stories she will never know. She wonders if their story was just a fragment of a larger narrative, if the last DM was a punctuation mark in a sentence that was never finished. She smiles at the irony and sadness of it all, the beauty and pain intertwined in memories like threads in a tapestry. She remembers the rainy nights when they talked until dawn, sharing dreams, hopes, fears and secrets. She remembers the warmth of his hand in hers, the comfort of a shoulder to lean on, the quiet understanding in a shared glance, the laughter that echoed in empty rooms. She types again on her phone, a simple line of words that mean everything and nothing at the same time. She puts the phone down and stares at the ceiling, thinking of all the moments that led them here, all the choices, all the chances, all the almosts and if onlys. She remembers the first time she realized she cared for him more than she should have, the ache in her chest, the flutter in her stomach, the sudden awareness of how fragile everything could be. She remembers the last time they walked together and how the air felt different, the way silence spoke louder than words, how every step echoed with meaning. She feels a tear slide down her cheek and smiles at its warmth. She thinks of tomorrow and the day after and wonders if the wind will ever carry another message, if fate will ever allow another chapter. She listens to the night sounds, the distant honking, the soft rustle of leaves, the occasional laugh from a passing stranger, and feels connected to the world yet utterly alone. She thinks of the words she wants to say, if only she could rewind, if only she could speak freely, if only the stars could align once more. She closes her eyes and lets memories wash over her, the laughter, the touch, the music, the rain, the city, the quiet, the storm, and she feels both sorrow and comfort in knowing that some stories linger in the heart even when they vanish from the world. Please give me. Her nights now are filled with echoes of conversations that never ended, with laughter that lingers in corners of her mind and with music that brings him close even though he is far away. She walks through the empty streets, remembering the times they ran through puddles in the rain, shoes-soaked, hearts racing, hands brushing in a fleeting touch that felt eternal. She remembers the quiet dinners in dimly lit cafes where words were unnecessary, the smiles, the glances, the shared silence that spoke louder than any speech. She remembers the postcards they sent each other from cities they dreamed of visiting together, the stamps, the handwriting, the little notes in the margins, the inside jokes. She smiles at the memory of how he once wrote that her smile could outshine the sun, and she laughed, embarrassed and pleased at the same time. She feels the weight of absence, the empty space beside her, the unspoken promises, the plans that dissolved into thin air like mist. She remembers the first snow they witnessed together, the cold biting their noses, the warmth of his scarf around her neck, the laughter as they built a small snowman that looked nothing like a snowman but everything like them. She walks through old neighborhoods that once held their footsteps, the bakery on the corner that smelled of fresh bread, the park bench where they shared secrets, the cinema where they watched movies and held hands. She remembers the letters she wrote and never sent, the long confessions, the fears, the dreams, all folded neatly in envelopes that now gather dust. She wonders if he ever thought of her as much as she thought of him, if he remembered the moments, the little touches, the subtle glances, or if time has erased her from his story. She feels the gentle pull of nostalgia like a tide that drags her back into the past, and she lets herself drift among memories both bitter and sweet. She types on her phone again a few words that mean nothing to anyone but everything to her. She imagines sending them and wonders if they would read them and feel the same ache, if they would remember the rain, the city, the nights, the laughter and the quiet. She she walks past the old bookstore where they once argued about which novel was better and laughs at how heatedly they defended their choices, and she remembers how he bought her the book she wanted even though he had insisted on the other one just to see her smile. She feels the gentle ache of love that was unspoken, love that was cautious, love that was bold in fleeting moments and silent in the rest. She remembers the music playing in their shared playlists, the songs that played when they were apart, the lyrics that seemed written for them, the melodies that haunted her dreams. She walks home in the quiet night listening to the wind rustling through the trees, imagining it carrying her thoughts across streets, cities, oceans to him. She remembers the rainy afternoons spent in cafes watching people pass by and creating stories for strangers, the way his eyes sparkled when he told his own stories, the way she laughed even when she did not understand the punchline. She feels the weight of absence again, but this time it is softer, gentler, less like a wound and more like a reminder that something beautiful once existed. She remembers the last time they met, the hesitant smiles, the lingering touches, the heavy silence, the words that were said and the ones that were swallowed. She feels the longing not just for him but for the moments that defined him, the laughter, the rain, the quiet, the music, the city, the stars, and the way everything felt infinite in those small bursts of time. She types one more time on her phone, the words almost lost to the night, almost meaningless but somehow grounding, and she imagines if fate allowed the messages to meet, if the DM would somehow reach him, if he would read it and smile and think of her just as she thinks of him. She walks to the balcony once more, feeling the breeze that seems to carry whispers from the past, and she closes her eyes, imagining his hand brushing against hers, the warmth, the comfort, the fleeting eternity of it. And she knows even if he never responds, even if the sky never carries his words back to her, she will keep this story alive in her heart. The memories, the laughter, the music, the city, the rain, the quiet, the storm, the love that never needed to be shouted, to be felt. Please give me. She wakes up to mornings that feel softer now, with sunlight spilling through curtains, painting patterns on the floor, the city humming quietly below, and her phone lying silently beside her. She remembers the dreams she had of him, the laughter, the rain, the streets, the quiet, and the warmth of a hand that was never hers to keep. She walks through her day noticing the little things, the way the wind carries scents of flowers and food, the distant hum of voices and cars, the flicker of sunlight on windows, and she imagines him somewhere noticing the same things, feeling a similar tug of nostalgia. She remembers the long walks in autumn when leaves painted the streets with colors that seemed almost unreal, and how his presence made every step lighter, every conversation more vivid, every silence less lonely. She types again on her phone a few words that feel like bridges thrown across time and distance, hoping that one day they may meet, even if only in memory or in a fleeting thought. She remembers the rainy nights when they shared umbrellas and secrets, how water splashed on their shoes and laughter filled the air, how she clung to him in moments of fear and he held her as if he could hold the world in his hands. She feels the ache of absence mixing with the sweetness of memory, the way love lingers even after it has gone, the way stories remain in the heart long after chapters end. She imagines the last DM being a seed planted in the soil of time, waiting for rain, waiting for sun, waiting for a moment when it might bloom again. She walks to the park where they once sat together, the swings creaking gently in the wind, the benches empty but holding the weight of their past. She sits and closes her eyes, feeling the echoes of laughter, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of a shoulder. She remembers the small victories and quiet consolations they shared, the jokes that only they understood, the moments that felt infinite, and she realizes that love does not always need presence to exist, that some stories live in the quiet corners of the heart waiting for recollection. She types a final line on her phone, simple and unadorned, a whisper into the void, a token of everything they were, everything they are, and everything they will always be. In her mind she puts the phone down and watches the stars appear one by one, the sky darkening and yet alive with possibility. She imagines him looking at the same sky and smiling, thinking of her as she thinks of him. She remembers the first time she knew she would never forget him, the sudden ache, the flutter of excitement, the realization that some souls leave marks that time cannot erase. She walks home under the night sky, the city lights twinkling like fragments of their memories scattered across streets and buildings. She remembers the last DM not as an ending but as a bridge between what was and what will always be, the laughter, the music, the rain, the quiet, the warmth, the stories, the city, the nights, the love that needed no words to exist. She feels the wind one last time as if it carries a message from him, a caress, a whisper, a memory, and she smiles softly knowing that though the DM may never be answered, the story is theirs forever, etched in hearts, in moments, in quiet reflections, in dreams, in the spaces between breaths, in the pulse of life itself. And she walks into the night carrying everything they ever were and everything they always will be, the love, the laughter, the longing, the memories, the quiet, the storm, and the last DM becomes not a farewell but a testament to a connection that transcends time and distance, a story that lives beyond words, beyond screens, beyond moments, a story that is hers and his and no one else's.